The arrival, the war fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. 10,000 warriors strong, the greatest army the Krell Empire had ever assembled, hung in orbit above the blue-green planet called Earth. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, his forearms crossed behind his back, watching the world spin below. A Deathworld, he muttered, his mandibles clicking with amusement. The Council fears a planet of soft mammals. Lieutenant Rex stood beside him, studying the scan results. The data showed primitive cities, simple weapons, no planetary defense grid, yet something in his gut twisted with unease. Commander, the warnings were unanimous. Every species that visited Earth disappeared or fled in terror, yes. Vex waved a clawed hand dismissively. Stories to frighten children. Look at the scans, Rex. Their strongest predators are slow creatures with teeth. Their humans have no armor, no natural weapons. They are prey animals who learn to use tools. The fleet descended through the atmosphere in tight formation. Vex had chosen a landing site far from human civilization, a vast forest region where they could establish a base before the conquest began. The ships landed in a clearing, their engines scorching the earth black. As the army disembarked, soldiers from a dozen species filled the forest clearing. The Krell warriors, each standing 8 feet tall with armored exoskeletons, formed the main force. The traders, swift and agile, scouted the perimeter. The mines, floating in their preservation tanks, reached out with psychic senses to detect threats. Nothing, reported Mind 7, his voice echoing telepathically. I sense only simple animal thoughts, birds, small mammals. Nothing intelligent besides the humans in their distant cities. Vex nodded with satisfaction. Establish the perimeter. We begin construction at dawn. That first night the forest was silent. Too silent. Rex walked the camp's edge, his weapon charged and ready, watching the tree line. The earth trees were strange, tall and ancient, their branches forming a canopy so thick that no starlight penetrated. The darkness between them was absolute. Behind him, soldiers erected barriers and energy shields. The camp blazed with lights, a fortress of technology carved into the primitive wilderness. Yet Rex could not shake the feeling of being watched. Lieutenant, a young soldier approached, his scales quivering. The scouts we sent to map the area. They missed their check-in. Rex's blood went cold. When? 20 minutes ago. Sir, should we? A scream cut through the night. Brief, sharp, then silence. The sound came from beyond the northern perimeter. Rex grabbed his weapon and ran, a squad following behind. They found the location quickly. Their tracking beacons led them straight to the spot. The clearing was empty. 3 scouts had been there, but now only their equipment remained. Weapons lay scattered on the ground, still powered on. The armor pieces were torn apart, bent and twisted like paper. Claw marks scored the metal, deep gouges that should have been impossible. What kind of animal? One soldier whispered. Rex knelt beside a damaged helmet. The alloy was Krell-forged, strong enough to withstand plasma fire. Whatever made these marks had strength beyond anything in the intelligence reports. He touched the ground and his hand came away wet. Blood. The trail led into the forest, disappearing into darkness so complete it seemed solid. Fall back to camp, Rex ordered. Now. They returned to find Vex studying the recovered equipment. The commander's confidence had not wavered. Local predator, larger than expected. We'll adjust our protocols. Double the guards, keep the scouts in groups of 6. Commander, those claw marks are concerning but not alarming, Vex interrupted. Earth has dangerous animals. We knew this. That's why we brought an army. He gestured to the thousands of soldiers filling the camp. Whatever lives in this forest will learn to fear us. But Rex looked into the darkness beyond the lights and wondered if Vex was wrong. Wondered if something in that darkness was looking back, learning about them, planning. In the forest, something ancient stirred. It had felt the vibrations of the ship's landing. It had tasted the air and found it filled with the scent of new prey. The creature had lived on Earth for millions of years, long before the humans came, long before anything walked upright. It had watched civilizations rise and fall. It had hunted every creature that ever thought itself a predator, and now, new prey had arrived. Prey that walked on 2 legs and 4, prey that carried lights and weapons, prey that would learn what every visitor to its territory learned. That on Earth there was always something bigger, always something older, always something hungrier. The creature moved between the trees, its massive form sliding through shadows like smoke. It watched the lights of the camp and felt something close to satisfaction. The hunt would begin soon. It always did. The horror. The disappearances began on the third day. Morning came with the discovery that 12 soldiers had vanished during the night shift. Their posts stood empty, weapons lying on the ground, still warm. The security footage showed nothing useful, just static and distorted images, as if something interfered with the cameras at the exact moments the soldiers were taken. Impossible, Vex snarled, watching the recordings again. They were inside the perimeter. The shields were active. Nothing could have. The screen flickered. For a single frame, something massive moved between two tents. A shadow, darker than the night around it, flowing like liquid. Then the image returned to static. Rex felt his blood turn to ice. "Commander, we need to evacuate. Whatever this is, we are the Krell Empire." Vex slammed his fist on the console. "We do not flee from animals. Double the guards. Triple them. I want every soldier armed and alert." But doubling the guards only meant more disappearances. That night, 20 soldiers vanished. Then 30. The pattern was terrifying in its precision. The creature took them from the center of groups, leaving the outer guards untouched and unaware until too late. One recording captured a moment of pure horror. 5 warriors stood in a tight circle, backs together, weapons pointed outward. The camera showed them clearly for 10 seconds. Then one warrior in the center simply undropped. The ground beneath him opened like a mouth and swallowed him whole. His companion spun around, firing at the earth, but the ground showed no hole, no disturbance. The soldier was simply gone, as if he had never existed. The mines tried to help. Mine 7 and his companions floated in their tanks, reaching out with psychic powers to sense the threat. For 2 days they searched, probing the forest with their thoughts. Then Mine 7 began screaming. His tank shattered from the inside, fluids spraying across the medical tent. The other mines convulsed in their containers, their telepathic shrieks driving nearby soldiers to their knees. Rex ran to the tent and found Mine 7 floating in the remains of his tank, his 3 eyes wide with madness. "Teeth," Mine 7 whispered, his voice breaking. "So many teeth, hunger, ancient hunger. It knows we're here. It's always known. It's been watching since we landed. It watches, it waits, it hungers." Mine 7 died moments later, his brain unable to process what he had sensed. The other mines refused to extend their senses beyond the camp again. One of them, Mine 3, kept repeating a single phrase. "This is not its planet. This is its hunting ground." Vex ordered a full defensive formation. The entire army gathered in the center of the camp, energy shields raised in overlapping layers, motion sensors placed every 10 feet. Surely nothing could penetrate such defenses. They were wrong. Soldiers began disappearing from the center of the formation. One moment a warrior stood among his brothers. The next moment he was gone, pulled through the ground, through the air, through reality itself. The shields detected nothing. The sensors remained silent. Whatever took them moved between spaces where detection was impossible. Rex witnessed one disappearance himself. He stood talking to a soldier named Karn, a veteran of 50 campaigns. Karn was mid-sentence when his eyes went wide. He looked down at his chest where a massive claw had emerged from his own shadow. The claw was black as void, covered in what looked like scales or perhaps stars. Rex's eyes couldn't focus on it properly. The claw pulled and Karn was dragged into his own shadow. His scream cut short as the darkness swallowed him completely. The shadow returned to normal, just a regular shadow cast by the camp lights. Rex stood frozen, staring at the empty space where his comrade had been. "We have to leave," Rex told Vex that night. "We have to get to the ships and leave this planet." Vex's confidence had finally cracked. His mandibles trembled as he spoke. "Agreed, at dawn we evacuate. Send word to all units, prepare for immediate departure." But dawn brought a new horror. The ships were gone. Rex stood at the landing zone, staring at the massive gouges in the earth where the vessels had been. Claw marks, each one as long as he was tall, scored the ground. The ships, massive war cruisers weighing thousands of tons, had been dragged into the forest like toys. A trail of torn metal led into the trees, disappearing into darkness. "It took our ships," a soldier whispered. "How did it take our ships?" Lieutenant Vorn, the chief engineer, studied the claw marks with shaking hands. "These gouges, they go down 50 feet, Whatever made these has strength that defies physics. And look, he pointed to marks on a nearby tree. These scratches are old. Centuries old, maybe older. This thing has been here forever. Only 300 soldiers remained of the original 10,000. They huddled in the camp as night fell again, all lights blazing, weapons pointed at every shadow. Rex knew it was hopeless. This creature, whatever it was, had been playing with them, taking them slowly, savoring their fear. "Why doesn't it just kill us all at once?" a young soldier asked. An older warrior, his scales gray with age, answered quietly, "Because it's not hungry. It's hunting for sport. We're entertainment." As if responding to those words, the lights began to fail. One by one, the camp's power systems died. Darkness crept in from the edges, swallowing the light. Soldiers fired their weapons into the shadows, but the energy bolts seemed to disappear into the blackness, as if the darkness itself consumed them. Rex heard Vex's voice over the communication system. "All units, fall back to—" The commander's voice cut off with a wet, tearing sound. The shadows moved. They flowed like water, rose like smoke, and reached with appendages that bent reality. Rex watched soldiers disappear, pulled into darkness that shouldn't exist. He caught glimpses of the creature itself, something massive that existed partially in their dimension and partially in others. Eyes that reflected no light but somehow glowed with ancient intelligence. A body that shifted and changed, never holding one shape long enough to comprehend. It was beautiful and terrible, and Rex knew in that moment that they had never stood a chance. Earth was not just a dangerous planet. It was a trap, baited with resources and primitive inhabitants designed to lure the arrogant and the greedy. "Run," someone screamed, and the order dissolved into chaos. Rex ran. He abandoned his honor, his duty, his brothers. He ran through the forest in blind terror, branches tearing at his armor, his own breath loud in his ears. Behind him, the screams faded one by one until only silence remained. The forest seemed to guide him, pushing him away from the creature's territory. Or perhaps it was letting him go, letting him survive to carry a message. After hours of running, Rex stumbled out of the trees and collapsed on a dirt road. In the distance, he saw lights. Human lights. He had reached civilization. His last thought before unconsciousness took him was the memory of those eyes in the darkness, watching him run. Not chasing, just watching, and somehow that was more terrifying than anything else. The Survivor X woke to gentle hands and soft voices. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to warm electric light so different from the harsh military lights of the camp. He was lying on something soft, a bed, he realized. Human furniture. A face appeared above him, old, weathered, with kind eyes. A human male, gray hair and deep wrinkles marking his age. The human spoke in his own language, then switched to broken Galactic common. "You safe now? You and Miller farm. My wife found you on road." Rex tried to sit up, but his body screamed in protest. Every muscle ached from his desperate flight through the forest. "The others. My soldiers." The old human's face grew sad. "You only one we found? You come from forest, yes? From the deep woods?" Rex nodded, his throat tight. 10,000 warriors. An army that had conquered 12 worlds. All gone, all dead. What is it? What lives in there? The old farmer, Miller he had called himself, sat down heavily in a chair beside the bed. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his weathered hands. "My grandfather told me stories." His grandfather told him. "Goes back long time, before we kept written records, and tell me," Rex whispered. "Please, I need to understand." Miller nodded slowly. "We call it different names. The old one, the first hunter. The thing in the deep woods. We don't know what it is. Been here longer than humans, that much we know. We found bones in caves. Creatures that lived millions of years ago, all with the same claw marks. Same. Feeding patterns." "Feeding patterns?" Rex felt sick. It doesn't hunt often. Maybe once every 100 years it takes some animals. Some people, if they go too deep into its territory. But mostly it sleeps. Mostly it just watches. Miller met Rex's eyes. "Your ships, they landed in the heart of its territory. The place we never ever go. The place our ancestors learned to avoid. Why didn't the council warn us properly?" Rex's voice cracked. "They said Deathworld. They said dangerous. They didn't say." Part 3, the Survivor X woke to gentle hands and soft voices. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to warm electric light so different from the harsh military lights of the camp. He was lying on something soft, a bed, he realized. Human furniture. A face appeared above him. Old, weathered, with kind eyes. A human male. Gray hair and deep wrinkles marking his age. The human spoke in his own language, then switched to broken Galactic common. You safe now? You and Miller Farm. My wife found you on road. Rex tried to sit up, but his body screamed in protest. Every muscle ached from his desperate flight through the forest. The others. My soldiers. The old human's face grew sad. You only one we found? You come from forest, yes? From the deep woods? Rex nodded, his throat tight. 10,000 warriors. An army that had conquered 12 worlds. All gone, all dead. What is it? What lives in there? The old farmer, Miller he had called himself, sat down heavily in a chair beside the bed. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his weathered hands. My grandfather told me stories. His grandfather told him. Goes back long time, before we kept written records, and tell me. Rex whispered. Please, I need to understand. Miller nodded slowly. We call it different names. The old one, the first hunter. The thing in the deep woods. We don't know what it is. Been here longer than humans, that much we know. We found bones in caves. Creatures that lived millions of years ago, all with the same claw marks. Same. Feeding patterns. Feeding patterns? Rex felt sick. It doesn't hunt often. Maybe once every 100 years it takes some animals. Some people, if they go too deep into its territory. But mostly it sleeps. Mostly it just watches. Miller met Rex's eyes. Your ships, they landed in the heart of its territory. The place we never ever go. The place our ancestors learned to avoid. Why didn't the council warn us properly? Rex's voice cracked. They said Deathworld. They said dangerous. They didn't say that something ancient lives here. Miller finished. Maybe they don't know. The few aliens who came before, they all died or left screaming. No one ever believed them. Or maybe, he paused, maybe some things can't be explained, can't be put in reports, must be experienced to be understood. A younger human woman entered, carrying a tray of food. Miller's wife, Rex assumed. She smiled gently and set the tray beside him. Eat, you very thin. Very scared. Rex looked at the food, simple, primitive, but offered with genuine kindness. These humans had found an alien soldier on their land, and instead of killing him or turning him away, they brought him into their home. Fed him, cared for him. Why? He asked. Why help me? Miller's wife patted his hand. Because you survived. Because you ran. Takes wisdom to know when to run. Takes courage to survive when others don't. Over the next 3 days, Rex recovered in the Miller farmhouse. He learned that the farm was 5 miles from the forest edge. Close enough to see the trees, far enough to be safe. The Millers had lived here for 4 generations, always respecting the boundary, never going into the deep woods. We coexist, Miller explained one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Earth is not our planet, not really. We share it with things older than us. Things we don't understand. The smart animals learned this millions of years ago. We humans were slow learners, but we learned eventually. Your people could leave, Rex said. Find another world. Miller laughed, a warm sound. This is our home. We just share it. Most of Earth is safe, cities, farms, mountains, oceans. Just some places. Old places. We don't go. Small price for a beautiful world. On the 4th day, a ship appeared in the sky. Not a human vessel, a galactic trader who had picked up Rex's emergency beacon. The Millers helped Rex to the landing site, gave him supplies for his journey, refused any payment. As Rex prepared to board, he turned to look at the forest one last time. The tree line was dark even in daylight, shadows pooling between the ancient trunks, and there, barely visible, he saw them. Eyes. Dozens of eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. They watched him without malice, without hunger, just watched, patient and eternal. Rex understood then. It had let him go. It had guided him out of the forest deliberately. It wanted a survivor. It wanted a messenger. It's watching, Rex whispered. Miller stood beside him, following his gaze to the forest. Always has been. Always will be. That's why we respect it. That's why we survive. Rex climbed aboard the trader ship, his legs weak. The pilot, a merchant named Tar, looked him over with concern. You're the only one? The distress signal said 10,000 soldiers. Take me to the Galactic Council, Rex said quietly. I have a report to make. The journey to the council took 6 months. 6 months of nightmares, of waking in cold sweat, seeing those eyes in every shadow. Rex spent his days writing his report, though he knew the words could never capture the truth. How do you explain ancient horror to beings who have never felt it? The council chamber was vast and filled with representatives from 100 species. Rex stood before them, his report displayed on screens around the room. They read in silence. The disappearances, the impossible strength, the creature that moved between dimensions. Lieutenant Rex, the council chairman said, his voice grave. Are you certain of these claims? 10,000 soldiers lost to a single creature. Not a creature, Rex corrected, his voice hollow. Something older. Something that owns Earth in ways we cannot understand. The humans survived because they learned to respect it. We failed because we thought we could conquer it. This is madness, another council member protested. No single organism could. It's not an organism in any sense we understand, Rex interrupted. It's fundamental, part of Earth itself maybe. Or Earth is part of it. I don't know. I only know that it killed my brothers like we would swat insects. And it let me live to deliver a message. What message? The chairman asked. Rex met his eyes. Stay away. Earth is forbidden, not because of the humans. Because of what watches over them. What watches over everything on that world. The council voted unanimously. Earth's classification was updated. Class X Deathworld, forbidden territory. No contact permitted. No rescue available. No return guaranteed. The official reason listed. Unknown apex entity. Lethality. Absolute. Rex was given medical retirement and a pension. He tried to return to normal life, but the nightmares never stopped. Every shadow held eyes. Every quiet moment brought the memory of screams. He spent his days in a medical facility, drawing the same image over and over. Those eyes in the darkness, watching, always watching. Other survivors were reported over the following months. 3 soldiers found wandering in human cities, minds broken. A pilot who had been on a supply run, returning to find the army gone. Each told the same story of something ancient, something unstoppable. 1 year after the massacre, Rex received a final visitor. A human diplomat, part of Earth's new embassy to the Galactic Council. The woman sat across from him in the medical facility's garden. I wanted you to know, she said gently, that the Millers speak well of you. They say you were respectful. That you learned. Rex looked at her with haunted eyes. Does it still watch? The thing in the forest? Always, she confirmed. But it sleeps now. It won't wake again for a long time, probably. Not unless someone else is foolish enough to invade its territory. Your people live with that? Knowing it's there? The diplomat smiled sadly. We live with many dangerous things. Hurricanes, earthquakes, deep ocean creatures we've barely discovered. Earth teaches humans to respect what we cannot control. It's made us who we are. After she left, Rex sat in the garden and watched the alien sunset. He thought about Earth, about the Millers and their farm, about the forest and what dwelt within it. He thought about humanity, fragile and small, surviving on a world that could kill them at any moment. And he understood. Earth hadn't made humans weak. It had made them adaptable, had taught them to coexist with nightmares, had forged them in a crucible of ancient terrors that would destroy any other species. Humans weren't the apex predators of Earth. They were survivors. And that, Rex realized, made them far more dangerous than any warrior race in the galaxy. His final report, written in shaking hand before madness claimed him completely, contained one last observation. The humans are not alone on Earth. They survive because something older allows it. We should fear not the humans themselves, but what they have learned to live beside, what they have learned to respect. For if humanity ever leaves Earth, they will carry that knowledge with them, the knowledge of how to survive the unsurvivable, and they will thrive in places where we would perish. The report was sealed in the Council archives, marked, essential reading for all species considering Earth contact. In the deep forests of Earth, something ancient shifted in its sleep. It dreamed of old hunts and new prey. It dreamed of those who had come before, and those who might come after. But mostly it simply slept and watched, always watched. The message had been delivered. The boundaries had been set. Earth would remain undisturbed, its secrets kept, its ancient guardians sleeping, until the next time someone forgot to listen to the warnings, until the next time arrogance exceeded wisdom. The forest waited, patient as stone, old as time itself, and somewhere, in the darkness between the trees, eyes opened briefly, then closed again, satisfied.